Kendra, I have just a couple quick things to go over before we start today. I was on Facebook yesterday and noticed that all of the articles for the next election are beginning to circulate, and one in particular stood out to me, so I clicked on it. It took me to the Census Bureau's website, and on there I read a couple articles about voting statistics of both midterm elections and the past 2016 election. On there it stated that only about 63% of people, so barely half of the eligible voters in the country vote, as well as during midterm elections, only about 43% of people vote. This brought to my mind a lecture that I sat through in Team Pact way back in 2012, whenever I went to Frankfurt to study a little bit about government. And in that lecture, he stated that the three main reasons people don't vote is, one, because they don't have transportation, two, because they aren't registered or don't know how or don't feel like registering, and three, because they feel unheard and as if their voice and their vote won't make a difference in an election. But that's just not the case. Voting is our privilege as a citizen of the United States, as well as our duty to other citizens and the government. Because in the First Amendment we're given the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the freedom of press. And if you read even closer in between the lines, you'll discover that the government was created to serve the people. And we shouldn't feel helpless at his hands. It was created for the people, by the people. It answers only to the people. And the main way that we are able to be heard by the government is through voting. It's the voice that we're given, and the reason you're not being heard is because you're not speaking with the voice you're given. It's really simple also to be eligible to vote. National elections, pretty much if you're 18 and you're a citizen of the United States, you can vote. State elections are a little different. Pretty much though, if you look up your state website, they'll have a tab that'll help you figure out if you're eligible to vote. But, you know, once you do vote and your party fails, it's not because you're unheard. The government has to listen to is obligated to listen to the majority of the people in the country. So if you're in minority, it just happens, but it doesn't always have to be that way. The minority of today can be the majority of tomorrow. You just have to get up, go out, recruit, share your ideology, find someone who shares it, nominate them, get them running, spread the word. I mean, look at movements of the past. The Civil Rights Movement, for instance, took years for it to come to the point of the Civil Rights Movement. It took many people who were nominated and did not get elected before Harry Truman finally was elected and able to sign the Civil Rights Act. Women's rights, for instance, that took years and years and so many people who were nominated and failed, but it happened in the end. As well as, you know, repealing the 18th Amendment and Prohibition. A really good example of this is the Green Movement. I mean, it's been going on for years, but it's now coming into the fact that it is a big deal in just about every election, and every candidate has a stance on it. And just because you're not heard instantly doesn't mean the government won't hear you eventually. Our government was set up to move slowly in order that it doesn't turn around and go the opposite way overnight. Because if you look at some other countries that have just completely turned around, it's happened overnight, like super quickly. And our government moves slowly in order for that never to happen here. And all of like the regulations that we complain about and all of that is put into place here to make sure that we stay safe and our freedoms are protected and that we stay the United States of America with the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, our right to bear arms. You know, all of those are protected by our government, which answers to us. And us voting and getting out there and making a movement to vote, like, for instance, I mean, the media speaks, that's one thing. But when the people speak, it's another thing. Whenever they gather and they rally, they're like the anti-war movement of the 1960s and 70s against the Vietnam War. it got to the point in that the government had to listen because the people were so vocal about it. And it's super easy to register as well. I actually already emailed all of you guys the link with a quick note on how to do it. Pretty much you go to the website. It's called vote.gov, and it has a page on exactly how to register. Offers a couple of links to get you to your state's website in order to register in your state as well. It's a really good resource if you're wondering what exactly you're going to need to do. But also try and keep yourself informed. In order to be heard, you have to be educated as well. So listen to the news. CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC, all of them are super good resources. Just, turn on the radio on the way home from work in your car. Listen to the news. Instead of some music, turn on the TV while you're cooking dinner. It's super easy these days to get out and hear the different stances of the candidates that are running, as well as going to the website. Every candidate today has a website. You just type in their name, takes you right there. Normally they have a short blurb on their homepage about main things that they stand for, and or their stance on main things that are crisis today, and it's super easy. But anyway, check your email.